We now have with us the Union Township Manager Brian Smith and the Zoning Administrator Woodruff, and they're going to talk to us about the community-wide non-motorized transportation plan. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Kilmer. Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Woody Woodruff. I'm the Planner and Zoning Administrator at Charter Township of Union, and born and raised right here in Mount Pleasant. So what I'm here to do this evening is to deliver to the city a project that was about 2 years in the making, and that is the Greater Mount Pleasant Non-Motorized Plan. There are a lot of, let's see here. Take the long route. So that's what I've said so far. A little bit of the history, though. Also, let me just give you our agenda for the talk this evening is how we got here, what is in the plan, how should the plan be implemented, and what the expected outcomes are. The township, the city, MDOT, the tribe, Central Michigan University have all been making their own improvements to the non-motorized world we live in, and by that we mean walking and biking. In August of 2008, Sue Ann Kampmeyer from Isabella County Parks and Recreation called on Region 7 Planning, and they came over to the Transportation Service Center and held a charrette, fancy French term which means a planning session, more or less, and a lot of ideas were thrown out on the table. And from that charrette, a group of stakeholders began to meet on a regular basis. This was coordinated through the Transportation Service Center here in Mount Pleasant, and we had spent a lot of time talking. We really fleshed out what we wanted to do. We were really certain that had a lot of commitment to what we were doing. Just about everybody's stimulus economic plan on revitalizing the state has included some mention of the knowledge-based economy and the desire for people to live in a community that has these sorts of amenities. So if we want to attract people to our community and continue to grow and thrive as we have, it's going to depend in part on the environment that we provide for our citizens. So, and before I get too deep into this, I really kind of want to acknowledge some people that helped pull this together. Union Township had a Pathways Prioritization Committee that we had started, and on that committee was Ben Jenkins, who's a township resident. Brian Smith is our manager. We wanted some people outside of the township, so we tapped Jack White on the shoulder, and all you know Jack very well. He's sat on your Zoning Board of Appeals and just a real spark plug in our community. Trustee John Dinsey and then Planning Commissioner Phil Hertzler. And that was our little local team before we really even got going. And then I included with them in the steering committee, we added some wonderful people, Allison Quast, Andy Reel, who was Central Michigan University Planning Department, Bill Whitman, who's with Mid-Michigan Community College Planning Facilities, Brian Atkinson from MDOT, Don Seal, the tribal engineer, Frank Cloutier, Public Relations Manager for the tribe, your Jeff Gray, Dan Methner, who was also with CMU in their planning department, and Pat Gaffney from the Isabella County Road Commission. Also there on that steering committee was Sue Ann Kampmeyer from County Parks and Recreation, as well as Tim Nieport, the Community Development from the county. So Mike Smith was on our steering committee from Vision 2020 and Crapple Ford to help us select the firm that we ended up with, as was Atkinson from MDOT. Carol Churchill, president of Mid-Michigan Community College, really rolled up her sleeves and got involved with us on a committee-by-committee meeting. and also Tim Nieport helped to select those consultants. So that's where we came from on this. So we sought a 2% grant from the tribe for a planning document. They granted us $50,000, which we asked for, and through a selection process, we settled with the Greenway Collaborative out of Ann Arbor. They've just done marvelous things in the state. They're really recognized as a leader. So what did the plan accomplish? Well, engaged more people into the planning process. We had stakeholder meetings. We had 2 or 3 public consensus meetings. We reached consensus on how to accommodate non-motor uses. And what we decided was we were going to create a borderless plan. And we kind of quipped that during this process, Lynn and Associates from Chicago came up and put on an event. I remember Kathy was there, and we, we all, as a big pack of rookie cyclists, we tackled Mission Street, and we saw some of those problems. So that was a great day. Brian was there too on that day, but I really kind of captured this the theme of what we want to do, and with the bikes without borders. Of course, we stole that from the doctors, but we really wanted a borderless plan. It was everybody's opinion that we needed something that fit the entire community. And if we did it by jurisdictions, we wouldn't get a cohesive plan. So we developed a logical framework for implementation. We developed the low-hanging fruit in the plan. What can we start today for little cost and get some stuff on the ground? We prioritized the big-ticket items within the plan. There's some engineering estimates, so you can do some budgetary work and look at what's coming in. But not only this, but what we wanted to also emphasize is that we want a healthy, livable community. We want complete streets. We want to be a cool city. We want to grow smartly. We support safe routes to school, and all of these things have a common ground in this plan. Where do we start from? Our consultant did some peer comparisons with other communities, and Mount Pleasant. And when I say Mount Pleasant, by the way, we are Mount Pleasant. It's all the way, past Somerton and south of Millbrook and north of Baseline. In that Mount Pleasant really ranks second in the state already with people who were utilizing and being non-motorized people. So we had a good base to start with. First thing the consultant noticed, what we already knew, we don't have a very complete network. So there's some wonderful facilities in the community, and then you kind of have to stop and take your life in your hand and put the bike on the back of the car and go to another wonderful facility in the community, And I just, having grown up with summers off at Mill Pond Park, I just love what's been done down there. So we decided that we really needed to bring this kind of in a cohesive nature. We looked at where all the pedestrian crashes were at in the community, as well as the bike crashes in the community. So those were kind of a red flag for where the problem areas were, still are. We had lots of public involvement. We conducted a web-based survey, had over 500 responses, and we also had 2 public meetings with people to give us their ideas. On the web survey, about 550 people responded, and as you see, the bulk of the people they're part of a household without school-age children. And so about a quarter of the people were full-time students, and the other third had a family with children. So we had a good cross-section of the people within the community. By the way, the web survey was able to kind of tag where these respondents were coming from, and we knew we didn't have anybody that was like ganging on with a bunch of answers. So, and when you look at this graphic, this is really interesting. This is the current destinations. In other words, where do you now go? Where are you comfortable in our community and going on your bike or walking? And so we see the campuses in red. The red is the highest hits. Notice our commercial areas, yours and ours, everybody's, the green. People are not going there. Well, the next said, well, if there were facilities there, where would you go? And that's what it looks like. So notice all the areas where people do not go now are the areas where they in fact would like to go. So that's a very telling graphic right there, and it tells us that people want to integrate walking and biking into their daily lives. The top concerns, and I'll not go through the chart, but the top concern was we need a complete sidewalk roadway system, and that was 3/4 of the people said we really need that. Over half the people said once you build it, please keep it clean. So, a complete bike lane system was also something that was sought after by the public. When we talked to the student population, both at Central and Mid, that slightly less than half of the students would be more likely to, and they're already the biggest users, by the way, over half of those kids would be, adults, would be happy to walk and bike more. Of the students that use their car on a daily basis, 60% of them said that they would like to ditch the car and start walking and biking. What are the goals of the project and the plan? Provide better non-motorized connectivity throughout the community. We want a healthy community, and that to improve the bicycle and pedestrian safety, so health and safety, and also that as a project like this begins to get mass and people become more and more aware of people who are walking and biking, that in of itself leads to a change. There's a tipping point in a community when people say, yeah, I see everybody's walking to work now, biking to work, I guess I'll try it. So the plan and the purpose and the vision were all drawn from these metrics. So, the guy didn't wheel in here from Ann Arbor and said, I know everything about walking and biking in your community, I'm going to write you a plan, thanks for the money. So really, our consultant did a well over the top of what the contract called for. So these are the recommendations of the plan, and the plan is all broken down, but we're looking at where do we want to put bike lanes on the primary roads. We also need some neighborhood connectors, tying all our neighborhoods together so people can get from one part of the community to another in a network style. We want sidewalk links to isolated neighborhoods, additional and safer road crossings, and non-motorized connections to regional destinations. So as we go through some of the things that are in the plan calls for 24 additional miles of bike lanes to be proposed on the primary roads. Again, as you notice, this community plan, it really it's kind of hard to see where the borders are. Oh my, they're not on there, are they? So, 7 miles of existing bike lanes, they're calling for an additional 24. Parking areas defined with stripes, in other words, sharing the side of the road with the parking people so that there are areas suggested where this dual use can be had on the side of the road. Tends to calm traffic as well, keep the speed limits down on the local streets. Sharrows or shared arrows, shared lane markings, parts of the plan simply call to add the little bicycle lane there. So it's really a contract between the motorist and the cyclist. We're going to get along here on this stretch of road. We all need to be watching out for each other. And when these little markers, you'd be surprised the difference it can make when a little bit of paint on the road. And call up DPW and ask them what's the cheapest thing to do. Paint the road. So I'd like to see a lot of that done. The neighborhood connectors use low volume, low speed roads. We're going to try to combine with existing trails and pathways, connect to schools, parks, and other key destinations. We want to have wayfinding signage, and you guys are already doing a great job with the very recognizable now circle with a cycle in the middle of it. Whatever we decide, if the die is cast, the whole community kind of needs to follow suit with what that signage is going to be. So there's a real cohesive feel for the cyclists. They don't know where our borders are either. So, and we also, traffic calming measures, are needed. And again, as you get into the details of the plan, it's all pretty well laid out. Here's a little bit about a neighborhood connector. Here's a typical intersection, and there's a cyclist you might know, a car parked down the road, and they already have a stop block for the stop signs, and that's about their bare minimum. I'll add some pedestrian crossing bars. Whoops, and you see the sign, the wayfinding sign there pop up on the right side. Now we could put in a mini circle. Guys are getting good at these, and but they do calm the traffic. I love to see the implementation. Unfortunately, we had to correct one, but vacation 2 summers ago in Bend, Oregon, and Bend is just, they're all over the place. And after you get used to them, boy, they really work smooth. So I think we're on the right track here. But here again, we're going to calm the streets here a little bit. This is a side street that only goes a little. As a matter of fact, it's probably familiar to you. That's the cemetery fence at the end of the road there. So a short little road that maybe we'd like to preserve that as a little more neighborhood feel. So now you can add some landscaping and a little more signage, and now with the parking bump outs, and here again, the traffic can still get there, but it really kind of says to the public, this is a shared area, and we value the people that want to walk and cycle. Additional and safer road crossing options, and in the plan, all these little dots are places where we could use a better crossing environment to make it easier to get across the road. Again, the sidewalk network here shows the existing sidewalks and proposed sidewalks, so this is all very important to bring together. And of course, you know, and then this is the regional connections. They want to take that into account. Some of the recommended policies are in the plan: snow removal policy, enforcement, a repair program, a bike lane, debris sweeping, improved access for people with disabilities, and increasing the bike parking options. Some of the recommended programs in the plan to develop some walking and biking maps that show the recommended routes, highlight the community resources, provide key safety information, and then, if possible, a web deployment. So it's all about apps and maps these days. So how cool would it be to have your smartphone telling you how to get around our community? Some of the things on a good transportation plan is these transportation hubs where there's a place to get a drink of water, put your bike up on a rack. There's some air there. There's a kiosk to let you know where you're at and how you can get around the community. Active transportation hubs have some locations there spread around the community, downtown, at the park, on campus, at Central, Maury Courts, and Zeebwing Center. Educational pieces, some things in there that are creative and how we can get the word out on how to be a cooperative cyclist or motorist in the community. This is a neat idea, the walking school bus. It's set up it comes by just like the bus, and there are adults designed to help school children walk to school, and in a safe way, in a pack. So that'd be something cool to implement too. A month-long alternative commute to work program, and create a little a prize at work for the people who walk or bike to work most days in a row. Implementation plan is in there. The initial primary corridors, these are the things that should be on the ground first to give us a strong backbone. Much of it is already there. This is really cool. This is really at the heart of the plan, is this circle tour, because it really ties a lot of the features of the community together. And any transportation planner will tell you that a good circle is the basis for good transportation, and it worked so well in Grand Rapids they did it twice. So, you know, as they grew, they just found they needed to grow that circle out into what became the Beltline. So, but this is and by the way, this was, we've submitted for a Tiger 3 grant. We were unsuccessful. We submitted for the Tiger 4 grant as well, and this is a key part of that request for $7 million from the Federal Department of Transportation. So, and again, this is a community-wide plan that we'd like to do this with. So the Circle Tour is about 15 miles. It connects key cultural destinations. You would have their information kiosks and the wayfinding on it. There are some road crossing improvements that need to be made with that. Estimate cost on the loop itself is about $3.6 million, starting from where we're at now for scratch. Also, a key component of that plan is, if you all know, Remus Road, the High Street in the city, dead ends, of course, at the freeway. It's a very vibrant route to get people out to the ice arena, and the Children's Museum will be located there. Of course, it's a dead end. The local transportation service center is very excited about the concept of putting a motorized pedestrian deck across US 127 that see, none of the bridges in our community accommodate walkers and bikers. You can't go over Broadway. You can't go over Broomfield. You know, they're just not tenable for non-motorized. So we really have to start from scratch to do this. And probably the most heartening thing is that Tribal Council is very interested in this road deck with the pedestrian crossing. So this was part of our grant application. So very exciting, because now the Children's Museum, Maury Courts, the ice arena, very, very concentrated community resources at a dead-end road will now be opened up across the freeway. So we're really excited about the possibility of seeking federal funding and some local funding to put that together. Here again, we're back to the Circle Tour. That's highlighted in yellow, and you also see the primary road modifications and the connectors here on this plan. In black is existing. Regional connectors here again, 30 miles of signed bike routes. We'd like to get people out to Deerfield Park, down to Shepherd, up to Clare, and the Mid-Michigan Community Pathways Group is really dedicated to this north-south connection between Ithaca all the way up to Clare, and they're also seeking growth in this neighborhood. And I think it's just really encouraging that there's so much interest in our community for non-motorized, that there's two groups of committed core people in our community wanting to improve this. So over the next 20 years, the benefits of these connectors will produce $6.7 million in reduced healthcare costs, $40.7 million in individual transportation cost savings, $1.2 million in social costs of CO2, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. Study after study after study shows that if you are within proximity to one of these non-motorized features, that the value of your property increases. So we're looking at a $7.3 million net value in property in our community. What can we expect out of a well-developed non-motorized plan? A great place to live, work, play, vacation, start a business, raise a family, all while we're addressing climate change, the obesity epidemic, and the realities of the new economy. People want to work where they want to live, and they choose where they want to live first. And our consultant pointed out, of course he's hanging out there in Ann Arbor, notices some stuff a little more than we see around here, but he's made the point that the new economic indicator for a community is going to be how funky are the bikes in the community. The funkier the bike, the better the economy. And you see, the utility bikes and all these sort of things. So as we implement the sidewalk, we want to close the gaps, provide more accessibility. Bike lane, there's near-term easy conversion of 21 miles for bike lanes, some shoulder paving. Again, it's all in the plan. And I'm really pushing my envelope here with the time, and I want to respect your time and have a chance for questions and answers. Road crossing improvements, again, a big deal. You really have to be able to get people safely across our busy streets. So we are at questions and comments.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, Commissioner English.
I have a million, but great presentation. Mission Street. What did your consultant say about the unbelievable amount of access driveways? I mean, I don't see a bike path down Mission.
No, it's tough. It's really, there's just so much work. Within the plan, there's some side alternatives that really seem to provide a more realistic approach to north-south traverse through the community.
Because in the ideal world, with our vision of a complete street where it's walkable, bikeable, shoppable, we want bikes on Mission. A lot of people can't envision that, but 20, 30 years from now, we'd like to be able to envision that. So I just wanted to know if you at all looked at that moving ahead.
Yeah, it is there in the plan. So yeah, it's there.
You said you had a million questions.
That's good.
Okay, then. Vice Mayor Lane.
I have a million questions too, but I'm only going to ask one general question, which is, you did emphasize that this is a regional plan, and that's a very important part of it. And I'm kind of wondering exactly what you're looking for from the City Commission, but also what's the plan for keeping all of this coordinated? Is there an overall coordinating committee that will be have representatives from the different groups, or will be getting back to the groups? Where do you see it going from here?
Great question, Kathy. Thank you. Yeah, and first of all, let me say this is probably an area plan. I thought it was a regional plan when we first started, and then we saw regional plans, and actually more what Mid-Michigan Community Pathways is up to would be a regional plan. But for our area plan, first of all, we have a cohesive plan that if it's implemented unit by unit, it's like well, they didn't quite do so good with when they met the railroad, but they're only 60 miles off. But transcontinental-wise, that was pretty darn close. So if we begin to put this implementation plan, it should meet up. However, we all know that things change, opinions change. There's the advice of the consultant, there's the opinion of the people, and sometimes things have to meet in the middle. I believe that we should continue to collaborate on non-motorized transportation. I think major, as people see flaws in the plan or this just doesn't work for us, that we need to be in communication so that we can kind of pencil in on the plan. At the very least, what I'd like you to do with it is look at it and use it. We've paid for it. It's a gift. I shouldn't say we. The tribe has paid for it. And it really was a collaborative effort. We had a lot of people from all the local units there, and Jeff Gray was there, and he just didn't pick decisions out of the air. He was there to represent the interests of the city, as was county people and township people. So I see we need to have a future discussion, a discussion in the future about continuing to collaborate for non-motorized transportation within the broader Mount Pleasant area.
Commissioner Holden.
Mr. Woodruff, what do you see, I like the plan, how do you see the funding process of this going forward, percentage-wise to taxpayer dollars versus grant dollars, which are obviously the same, but do you see a lot of these funds, the grant funds being allocated for these programs?
Well, there's some huge grant fundings, and we're applying for this Tiger 4, but the stiff competition. So the bigger the money, the bigger the competition. We intend to continue to apply for grants as they come up. Bikes Belong grants. There's other community development block grants that will come along. So we are incorporating this into our capital improvement plan. As we began to look at applying for the Tiger grant funding, we simply looked at what the city already had in their capital improvement plan and as resources that could be allocated. So yeah, but there again, as street projects come about, some things will happen quickly, some things may take 20 years to do. We currently have a project to get sidewalks, 8-foot sidewalks on both sides of Bluegrass and up a little ways on Isabella. So and all those recommendations came right out of the plan. So, and what I have here, the deliverables are, we printed off a copy of the plan in color, so on nice heavy stock paper. And then in the front is, slid out of the front, the plan on CD. And one copy each of the local plan and the regional plan. I'm going to drop this off and put my case in. And if you are interested at any time, you can go to the township's website, uniontownshipmi.com, look under community information, and click on bike and walk, and you will see, the plan is there, along with the Tiger Grant and some other information.
Any other question? Commissioner Outton?
To piggyback on Commissioner Holton's question, does funding still exist for safe routes to schools?
It does. Safe routes to school funds have to be applied for by the school district. Joe Pius was on our steering committee, and he his retirement hit right in the middle of it, and we sorely missed Joe when he left. But Mount Pleasant Schools does have a nexus to the steering committee, and they're well aware of how to get safe route to school funding.
Okay.
Other questions? Vice Mayor Ling.
Just as a follow-up to the question on where do we go from here, I was really happy to see we have a couple of planning commission people here. And is it safe to assume that as the firm that comes in to look at our master plan, I mean, a lot of these recommendations had to do with incorporating in your master plan at the point at which you were updating it. Of course, we're about to update our master plan. So will they be looking at this? Are you assuming that they will be looking at this and making recommendations on what parts of it should be included?
Well, certainly Mr. Gray is here and can answer, but I think it is his expectation that the Planning Commission will look at this plan as well and probably incorporate pieces of it. But go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, that is the idea. I mean, you have multiple options available to you. If you felt like the plan in its present form is something you wanted to adopt, you could proceed with the plan as printed. I think what we've set up is we've looked at the scope of the master plan, though, is to kind of examine it, sort out if we want to adopt it by incorporation, take pieces out and adopt it in the master plan. But yeah, the idea right now, unless you have some more specific direction or want to look in another direction, the idea is to kind of examine this with the master plan and sort out either an adoption by incorporation or by pulling pieces out.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a comment. I'm excited about the work you've done. Last summer we were in the Netherlands and they had bike paths everywhere and mini circles, and they had traffic lights just for bikes. They had multi-story parking garages for bikes. I mean, 4 or 5 stories bikes, and they can do it, and we can do it too. It was a great place to visit, and I think we have some great plans here.
Great.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
And, I would be happy to address the Planning Commission if
Thanks,
you so
Woody.
choose.
All right, thank you very much.